I never thought I'd be the kind of person to write something like this online, but I guess when you're betrayed in the most disgusting way and you do something you don't regret for a single second, you just want to share it. Maybe my story will help someone else stop ignoring the obvious. I met Alice almost by accident. It was summer, I was 23 and had just started my first real job after college. I didn't have much money, but it was enough to rent a room, go out to a bar with friends now and then, and dream of something bigger. Alice came into my life like a breath of fresh air. She had those eyes that seemed to look straight through you, big, gray, and impossible to escape. And that smile, it was disarming. We first crossed paths at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was laughing at some stupid joke, and I thought, well, that's it, I'm done for. Things between us started off so effortlessly. She'd send me memes late at night, call me out of nowhere just to ask if I had eaten. Within a month, we were dating, and honestly, I felt like the happiest guy alive. Alice was caring, passionate, and when I was with her, I felt like I had finally found home. At first, everything was perfect. We spent every weekend together, went on little trips, and stayed up until morning talking in the kitchen about our future. She told me she wanted to start her own business, that she was tired of working for some random guys. I supported her in everything. But little by little, cracks started to show. She often stayed late at work, even though I knew her office closed at 6. She hardly ever left her phone unattended anymore, while before she didn't care if it was lying around. When I asked about it, she would say, "Stop being jealous. I just have a lot on my plate." I kept trying to convince myself everything was fine. Everyone goes through busy phases. And Alice was so convincing that I actually felt guilty for doubting her. The turning point came at her friend's birthday party. In the middle of the night, I saw her texting and smiling at her phone. I walked up behind her, wrapped my arms around her, and she instantly pulled the phone away, snapping, "Don't look." Something inside me shifted then. From that moment on, I started paying closer attention. Sometimes she was too tired and stayed overnight at her friend's place. Sometimes she came home glowing with happiness, like her whole day had been a celebration. I tried to talk to her, but she'd always shut me down with, "You're making stuff up. Everything's fine between us." And I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to, because I loved her with every bit of me. But the more I loved her, the more I could feel that somewhere close by, a crack was growing wider and wider, and soon it would swallow us whole. I knew I had to act coldly. No impulsive rage. Emotions are the enemy of real revenge. If I wanted Alice to truly feel the consequences of what she'd done, I had to strike where it would hurt the most. First, I started paying closer attention to her complaints. She often said her boss didn't trust her with big projects, that people at the office didn't take her seriously. But I knew the real reason she was always glowing after late nights. I gathered evidence. Photos of her and her coworker at the bar, messages I'd gotten through his ex. I had more than enough. The next step was to carefully deliver all of it to her company's management, anonymously, of course. A week later, Alice was called into a meeting. When she came home, her face was pale, her eyes full of rage. She screamed that someone had spread lies and ruined her career. I sat in silence, but inside, I felt a strange satisfaction. But that was only the beginning. I invited her out to dinner, to talk, pretended I wanted to work things out, maybe forgive. She showed up dressed to impress, as if it were a date. I looked at her and thought, "You play roles so easily." When dessert arrived, I took out an envelope. Inside were the printed messages and photos. I placed it in front of her and said, "I know everything. You destroyed what we had. And you know what? You deserve everything that's coming to you." Her face went pale. Her hands shook. She tried to explain, to cry, to beg, but I didn't care anymore. I stood up, left cash for the bill, and walked away. Within days, her coworker, lover, dumped her. Once everything became public, it wasn't worth the risk for him. Alice was left with nothing. No job, no relationship, and most importantly, no illusion that her lies could go unpunished. And me? I felt relief. Not joy, not triumph, just relief. Like I had finally cleaned out a festering wound. And if anyone asks me whether I regret my revenge, not for a single second. Sometimes the only way to make someone value the truth is to show them that lies always destroy. That night, the one when I finally learned the truth, is burned into my memory like a brand. Alice said she was going over to her friend's place. Girls' night, cocktails, TV shows, gossip. I nodded, though inside I was boiling. A week earlier, I'd noticed she had started locking her phone again, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she thought I was an idiot. Instead of staying home, I decided to stop by the bar where her girls' nights usually took place. My hands were trembling, my chest tight, but I needed to know. And when I walked in, my heart dropped straight to the floor. Alice wasn't with her friends. She was sitting with some guy, laughing, leaning in too close, touching his hand. And in her eyes, there was something I hadn't seen in months. That spark, the fire, that used to be only for me. I stood frozen in the shadows near the entrance, unable to move. I wanted to scream and vanish at the same time. Minutes dragged like hours. Then they got up and walked out together. I followed, almost on autopilot. Outside, the guy hailed a cab. They both got in, and Alice didn't even glance back. Something inside me snapped. I stood there on the sidewalk, watching the car disappear into the night, and I felt like the most pathetic man alive. I didn't sleep at all. First came the rage, then the pain, then the emptiness. When morning arrived, Alice came home all cheerful, acting like nothing had happened. "Oh my God, we had such a fun time with the girls, you should have been there," she chirped. I just looked at her and thought, how can you lie so easily? For the next few days, I stayed silent, played the fool, pretended nothing was wrong. But inside, something was building. A plan. I realized that simply breaking up with her wasn't enough. She didn't deserve an easy exit. Her lies, her games behind my back, her smug certainty that I'd swallow it all. No, she had to feel what I had felt. So I started digging, found out the guy's name, turned out he was her coworker. I accidentally befriended his ex on social media, and before long, she spilled plenty. Apparently, this guy wasn't exactly Prince Charming either. He loved juggling multiple flings at once. The idea of revenge started forming slowly. I didn't just want Alice to lose me. I wanted her whole little world to collapse the same way mine did that night when I saw her with him.